We're back at the Sleeping Grush Inn. There's a cozy, roaring fire in the fireplace, mugs of the best ale in our hands, and some crusty bread on the table. Welcome one, welcome all. Pull up a seat and let's hear tales of your adventures in Phelan. I'm Lore Master Matt.
I'm Phelan Jon.
And welcome to the Sleeping Grush podcast. We are brought to you today by Cardboard Corner Cafe, the best gaming cafe in the Kansas City area. You know, they've been closed for a couple of days because of the bad weather that we've just experienced here in the Midwest. But they're open now and going strong. And if you are looking for a place to connect with others in the Kansas City area, Cardboard Corner Cafe is that place. Great food, great drink, and great games.
Okay, so let's kick it off. Episode what? 29? Is that what I just heard?
That's what you heard.
Beloved producer said, holy smokes. Okay. So we have some great things to talk about today, but we're going to start with poking Matt, Lore Master Matt, about what's on his paint table. What Phelan models are you working on there, Lore Master?
Jon, we are knee-deep in models for our Adepticon builds, and right now I am building a whole bunch of Kandor, especially our Bone Thrall Impalers. We have some Cryax Reapers and some Bone Thralls that we're painting up over here at the Gooch household, and they are coming along really nicely. They're going to be ready for Adepticon, of course, although we're all feeling the burn on that as it gets closer and closer and closer. But I'm really excited to paint these for one of our games, and we'll talk about that. And we talked about that in another episode. But they're coming along really nice, and I'm really enjoying painting some Kandor. It's something that I haven't done since they came out, and I painted the demo kit. So if you want to share what's on your table, make sure you drop some pics on our socials on Phelan Friday. We take Fridays to slow down a bit and appreciate all the hard hobby work that you're doing on your gorgeous models. And now we're also going to take all of those pictures that you post, and we're going to post them onto our Instagram as well. So not only this group of people, this community gets to see them, but our Instagram community gets to see them as well. So Jon,
we need to start nominating. Just a thought for the next segment. We need to start nominating some of those. And we want to get some player models onto the store, right?
Right.
Web store.
Right.
The lead photograph is the model pro-painted, but we want to showcase others' work, maybe conversions, whatever. We need to see. You might need to talk later about how we nominate some, and then maybe get because it's going to definitely be a photograph on someone's paint table with spilled Nuln oil and knives laying around. So that's how mine looks.
That's exactly right. That's what mine looks like.
And maybe having the players, kind of a player's choice. Hey, so from this week, which ones would you guys want to see on the store? Stuff like that. We'll have to talk that through.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Jon. That's a great idea. So, every week we feature a battle report or a game that we've played on Free Blades recently. Jon, we've got the Inner Sea that's just started. We've been practicing for a bit. Can you tell us about a recent game of Free Blades you've played?
I can, but it's not going to be about the Inner Sea campaign.
Ooh.
I did some prep games of that down at Tabletop Hour at Cardboard Corner, but most recently, I have played 2 playtest games with our newest faction.
Oh, nice.
Final playtest game. Yeah. So they are the Varkraal Unchained. Our Patreon subscribers have started to see, based on what level they're at, renders and photographs and concept art of these models. The playtest has been working on it diligently for quite some time now because we're introducing a brand new primary skill. And I had the great pleasure to played one of our play testers directly, a couple of games not too long ago with, and, privilege of being part of the company and thankful, big thanks to our production team, Matt Green and Jennifer Felix. I had actual Varkraal models to play with also.
That's awesome.
Not only painted yet, we're play testing. I just got them, together. But, and I'll tell you also, I haven't been in the company since the very, very dark days. These models are gorgeous and they go together so well. But the ones that aren't in one piece, maybe have one, nothing like the old days of the 11-piece models. So cleaner, good looking. Not a lot of hobby work needs to be done to put them on the base and play. I played with them almost immediately. And so, we're just this new primary skill. So these are, the primary skills are melee attack, range attack, casting, and performing. And now we're going to have another one called focus. We were play testing the rules for that new primary skill.
That's awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward. I've seen, of course, I get to see all these about the same time that you do. And I'm looking forward to having those models in my hand because they're gorgeous. The renders are gorgeous. The art was gorgeous. Everything about them is just absolutely beautiful. And you've raved about them now, and Jen's raved about them now, and Green's raved about them. And man, I just can't wait to get my hands on some of those. So that's really exciting. Folks, you heard it here first. We're we're unveiling the name of our new faction, and the new primary rule there. That's going to be.
Yeah. So another bit about the battle report there, Matt. Just to be, fair, I played our good friend Matt Budney, one of our play testers, local here in the Kansas City area. We played at the vaunted edifice known as DGS headquarters. And I went 1-1, and I played both games against the same force. He had his we played at 250 gold, and he played his Raven Blade force. And I will tell you, I won the first game and lost the second game. I'm like, Matt, where has this been? You need to be playing this in competition. It was well designed. I said, you don't take this into competition. I'm gonna. So you need to get out there because this is a very well thought out. He knew what he was doing. I got the jump on him in the first game. It was a looting spree game, and I just raced around and did fast model things and blocked where I needed to block. But the second game, I made a couple of key errors, and we had a model go down a little too quick. Maybe we're taking a look at some of the rules for it in terms of the way the rules work on that model. I'm not sure it was the most exciting design, that we've done in terms of the rules. And so, we put it back to the rules team. And they came up with a great answer. So that's why you play test.
Right.
But I just want to give kudos to my opponent. We're talking about battle report. He had a excellent Raven Blade force built around the Raven Blade Lieutenant, the Fifth of Vidnar, and the Chopel.
Nice.
And the synergy he had going there, and that's a lot of points, a lot of gold to spend on support models, right?
Right.
But the Fifth, as you know, can wade into a combat, can't do super leader things, but can stand for a while in a combat based on their armor. Can if they get a hit in, that hammer hurts.
Yeah.
And what Chopel was doing along with the Fist to the Raven Blade Lieutenant to make her super salty in the game, I didn't have the models in place to address that when the time came. I was out of position, and he really had it going on. So I want to make sure he gets the credit for making that second game really hard and making us take a really good look at our new faction.
Nice. Sounds like a really good force he built.
Yeah, I'd to take other things against it.
Right.
Get some revenge.
Okay. Well, I mean, I have seen you beat him a few times, so yeah. All right, the Undersea campaign is officially underway, John. We've been building up to this for a couple of months, and now we are actually in January. Gosh, where did the year go? We've started the campaign. It kicked off officially on January 5th. We're recording this on the 7th of January. So just a couple days later, you wouldn't know it here in Kansas City that it started because, we're snowed in. There's, a couple feet of snow on the ground and ice everywhere and snow drifts. So we're having some trouble getting out. We were supposed to be playing this evening, but we're actually, all three of us here today, John, myself, and producer Jager, are remote because, we have limited access outside of our homes. So, John, to get this campaign going, we needed to do something new, something special, which is Sea Blades. What is Sea Blades, and how does it change the game of Free Blades?
Okay, Sea Blades is a supplement to the Free Blades game that allows you to take ships. We're going to call them ships because that's what the game calls them. I think technically they're boats, right? But
right.
And it's not. It's what it is or what it's not. What it is an environment in which to play your games that's different from other environments.
Right.
We have plans for a ship game where navies play, And interestingly about that as an aside, because I think sometimes people will be looking for this sort of thing at the level that Free Blades is. It's a long time from the point where we really can't affect a distant ship over range. I'm talking historically.
Right.
You can shoot some arrows at it. You can shoot flaming arrows at it, and there's plenty of water around. So we went down the deck and countermeasure. There's some Greek fire in there. It's not until the advent of the cannon that the primary way of winning a sea battle moves from going over there, grappling it, and taking it over. And so in cannon, ever in Phalon, they're not in Phalon today. So we want to make that, interesting. So Sea Blades is really, think of the ships more as a mobile terrain feature. They're getting your troops around now. You can beat them up, but it's by collision. There's not at this time. There's no shipboard weapons for destroying your opponent's ship for two reasons. One, it's not really what these boats would have. We're going to put those on ships, and we are going to. It's a fantasy game, so we're going to introduce some fantasy weapons and some cool fantasy ways for ships to affect each other in our naval game. But just moving around the table on these vessels is going to be an interesting enough challenge for the players without, making it about, we're going to stand off on this side of the table, you're going to be on that side of the table, I'm going to bash you with my, fire cannon or whatever we're going to end up giving people.
Right.
So, there's shooting with your archery. There's boarding, but you still have to accomplish the task of the scenario, right? And you get. We'll talk about capturing ships in a minute. You get some goodies for capturing ships, but ultimately, Free Blades is a melee game. Magic and shooting and some of the other skills are there as supporting actors to, let's get into it, hand to hand. And so Sea Blades is the same way. Sea Blades is focused on, accomplishing the scenario and the fight and what's going on with the water and the ship and the archery and the magic is a supporting effort to the main effort. Also, I had to, when I first wrote Sea Blades, I'm a nautical game player. I'm from a coastal state. I grew up, on the water, and I made it like a nautical simulation with points of sail and, wind changes and wind direction to the ship, and it's just not what we wanted the people playing Free Blades to play. We want them to get into a game of Free Blades with this cool environment and not become, Admiral Nelson. So we toned a lot of that down. Also, in the medieval time period, ships got along around as much, especially close to shore, with sweeps or oars, as much as they did with sails.
Right.
So we have that in there. So we have a game contained inside the Inner Sea campaign that allows you to get your free band around by shipboard ships.
Right.
And 6 scenarios for the campaign that have either all or significantly water, on the table. Either the entire table is water, deep water, you're out in the middle of the Inner Sea, or you're near the shore, but you still have a lot of deep water terrain in the encounter area. And so then on top of that, we don't make ships,
Right. Right. We don't.
We're gonna. We are going to. That's something we're going to do. We've always wanted to do it. We don't make it. We don't make them yet, and so we want people to be able to play with their ship models, but not make it mandatory. So we don't want to make anybody spend money on anything. Well, we want to kind of make them spend money on Freeblaze models, but the rest of it, needs to be optional. So, so leading up to the publication of the Inner Sea campaign itself, did a lot of work sharing how we were building the ship stats so we could get players involved in showing us the ship models they owned and get those ship stats into the game. In fact, as late as this past weekend, the weekend before the launch of the campaign, I entered one more to the ship stats based on a player's custom built ship. And we'll go on doing that. It's a living document. So as we're moving along, somebody decides, okay, I had some canoes for my guys, but now in scenario 3, I want to up the game a little bit. And this is the model I put together, printed, built. This is the deck plans I bought from Pathfinder. This is the thing I got off of Etsy, whatever. How can I get into the game? We will make stats for it. We have a builder for it, and we will get into the game for you. So if you're in the campaign document, which is available on Discord and the Inner Sea channel on Discord, you'll see a stat table for the ships. And what's down the left-hand column is a name that manufacturer gives it, and then the company that makes it, Laser DreamWorks, Firelock, Sarissa Precision, all these different companies that make these things. And sometimes players, or sometimes something somebody printed,
Right.
We want to support all the aspects. So, for example, just take my case, for example. My free band is tooling into game 1 on a piragua, a 2-masted boat. Not really, from a historical standpoint, it's from a later time period than a medieval time period, but, it's a boat with 2 masts. It's not, advanced technology. It's not beating
Right.
another planet. Yeah. So it fits 13 25 mil bases. So I could, if I wanted to keep it for a while, if my free band grew, I wouldn't have any problems there. An extra mast, a 2-mast, an extra mast allows me to sail a little bit faster, but I pay for it a little bit. It's more than a long boat, more than a swamp boat.
Right.
And it's made by Firelock Games for their Blood and Plunder game. It's a resin model, easy to put together. And also, like I said, you can use deck plans. You can use something you scratch built. One of our players made a great looking catamaran out of popsicle sticks. That's, I think, what those are. Genius idea, right? We wrote the stats for it. There's also the option as you're going through the games to just not play Sea Blades. And it's just not your thing. You and your opponent can be part of the campaign,
Right.
but not have to do any of this. So each of the 6 games of the campaign, you can choose a land scenario and play that instead. And some actions in the War of the Red Sail took place on land. So it's not that's not anything. That's the basics of Sea Blades. You get your ship, you put a crew on it. Depending on how much crew you have is how fast it gets to move. And whenever that crew becomes like an activation among your model activations, and when they activate, that's when the ship moves. Not a lot of depth to that. We're not asking you to refight Jutland. So
Yet.
Now, I'm going to tell you. One day I came in. I went to a convention. They were replaying a big naval battle on the floor of the lobby, and it was also a wedding. Not sure
Holy
how
cow.
that went down. They seem cool with it, I guess. I don't know, but
Seems a little weird.
you do that with your Seablades game too.
Absolutely. All right, so we have Seablades, and I got to tell you, I'm just absolutely adoring the boats. I have not declared a patron yet, but I know,
What?
I haven't declared a patron yet. I was kind of waiting to see where everybody else fell, so that if we needed to balance it out, I could do that. And I have an Ertigar force that I'm bringing to the table, and a couple of small, canoe type boats. So, I was just kind of waiting, but I'm very anxious to get in there and start playing. It really bummed me out that tonight was a wash as far as the weather's concerned. So, but there's next week, and we because we extended the campaign game one for the entire month of January, we'll be able to do that without any problems.
Doesn't that seem prescient now, right?
It does seem prescient now.
We were trying to take care of our players, and we're the ones that get 11 inches of snow. So,
Yep.
That turned out to be a good deal.
It did. So we got the Seablades, and now we have this Intersea campaign that's just started. And so tell me a little bit about the campaign. You wrote a fantastic story about the very beginning of the war. And why don't you just kind of start there, just give us a little overview of the history behind the war that the campaign is set in, and then give us some insight into the campaign.
Okay, so we have tied the year of what year it is in Phalon to the year in real life. So in real life, what just passed was 2024, and that is 1004. And it's at the very end of 1004 in Phalon that the war begins. And so we're rolling into what's now 1005, and that is the year where the war will be fought and conclude. As Matt said, I wrote a couple of stories. We wrote a couple of stories about the lead up, things going on prior to the actual start of the war. And then, in fact, my story is the moment the war begins, the action that starts the war.
Yeah. And I love that story.
Anvil, right?
They are on World Anvil, yeah.
Yeah. And so if I wanted to find them, where am I going? Am I going to...
You're going to go to you can't go to Discord and find them, but if you want to go just straight to World Anvil, you can go to World Anvil, and then you can go to Stories of Phalon, where we keep all of our fictional stories. And I have made a category called Visions of the Red Sail War. And in there, you can find all of our fiction for this campaign. And right now, there's only 2 of them that we've put in there. We have Frigid Visions, which is a story that I wrote for Kickoff, and The Red Sail, which is your story about the beginning of the war.
Cool. So that's a lead up, right? And then what happens
that's a lead up.
Lead up. And there's some more of that background from a meta standpoint. You're not in the Red Sail, the story. You're down in the action. Your point of view is a ship captain. But we have a prelude to war section in the campaign document itself, campaign PDF. That kind of gives you the environment the war is taking place in. The skirmishes between Haradel and Falkar, for their entire history. This gets a little more serious, is what happens. And so the campaign contains that sort of backdrop. Then the campaign rules. And the campaign rules try to play a campaigner in the Freeblades Living Rulebook. But this gives you the framework of all the things that you would normally turn over to your campaign organizer. Out there in the world, the campaign organizers are our questers. So I know somewhere along the way here, Matt's going to ask me, so how do I join up? You join up by finding your question. If you don't have one, we'll help you. Your local area, or if your question says, I'm too busy, whatever, we will help you with that. But generally speaking, in any given group, the questioner is the person we're looking to get things organized and serve as the role of campaign organizer for your local campaign. So what the campaign document contains is the particulars for this campaign for those things that aren't, sort of answered by the campaign rule, the generic campaign rules in the Freeblades Living Rulebook. And then, and what you're doing is you are fighting on behalf of one of the two sides, or you have stepped back and you are influencing the war, but you have not committed to one of the two sides. You are working for this pirate queen patron. We're trying to keep that. We want to make it about the war. We don't want everybody to be a pirate and the war doesn't get fought. So what we've asked the questions to do is kind of sort it out that in their groups, you're going to sign up to either be Falkar or on the side of Haradel, and one generally unaligned player per group. Now we're flexible on that. And really what it comes down to is you guys decide. We make this game so your group can play it the way you want to play it. For example, one of our questers, they're running the whole thing as an encounters game, set of encounters games, and the players are the free band aboard a ship. Right.
That's cool.
And they asked us if that was okay. We worked that in, so we're here to work with you if you want to make modifications to the standard. I'm giving you the basic idea, but of course we want to support the group playing the game that where they want to play it. I don't hear a kid sitting we're against some vicious hard fought games between Haradel and the eventual winners of the campaign, the Falkar. Not that I've taken sides, but I've totally taken sides. So
we're not surprised where you fell.
Right. So yeah, so it's I guess gotta own it, I guess. So so in the campaign, you are choosing what side you're going to be on, and that tells you what patrons you can choose from. There's this one pirate patron if you're going to be your group's unaligned player, but there are 4 Haradellan patrons and 4 Valkaran patrons. And one of the things Prepping Intercede did for us is we settled on those 9 patrons. We've kind of been all over the map a little bit. Matt and I have a long-term project to get World Anvil much more under control and much more user-friendly. But we've run a number of campaigns over the years, and sometimes we'll have a patron and they'll have their patron rule and we'll tweak it afterwards. And so there'll be campaign 1 with version 1 and campaign 2 with a tweaked version and campaign 3. We're settling all that. So for these 9 patrons, their background settled, they are settled, and we've given you art. We've given you, a character illustration for each of the 9 patrons in see. We're going to build on that with all of our other patron level characters in the world of Phalon. So you choose. So for example, I have chosen the side of Falkar. My patron is the Baron of Jendal, one of the 4 Falkaran patrons. I don't have to be Falkaran myself. I don't have to have a Falkaran free band. You declare Falkar. It's the side you're taking. We'll explain what that means in a minute. But it doesn't. I can be demons. I could be Haradellen, if I want to tell my own story. But you do have to choose a side because reasons, which we're going to explain in a moment. So I just so happens I also have a Falkaran free band. So I'm just as much a rule follower as you could possibly be today. And so I get the benefit of the Baron of Jendal special rule. And at the end, I am going to be part of influencing the war, attempting to influence the outcome of the war on behalf of Falkar as opposed to Haradel. So I picked a patron. I personally picked my free band. I picked my side. By picking a patron, you pick a side. And I'm off to play my games. I'll be playing right now or right after this podcast recording if we were all down at Cardboard Corner, but we're not because of weather and other challenges. I'd be jumping into game 1.
Right.
So campaign, prelude, how the campaign framework, how you integrate the campaign rules, what options are in play, then how to picking a patron and picking your side, what that means. Then the 6 scenarios you're going to play. 6 games. They were going to be 2 weeks around. We made round 1 4 weeks so that people would come out of the holidays and kind of get a couple practice games in. It really worked for us because we got hit with the blizzard of the Intersea blizzard of 10:05 as things kicked off. So, and then the last part is a section of the campaign rules called the Treaty of Erlin. And the Treaty of Erlin Island is the island in the center, the big island in the center of the Intersea. And that's where the war starts. Part of what the war is about And at the end of the campaign, basically, this is a simple version. All of the players who played on behalf of Haraldal are going to pool their influence, and all of the players that have declared for Falkar are going to pool their influence, and they're going to get that influence from the outcomes of their games. There's a chart in the game rules for the campaign that say if this happens in your game, you get this much influence points. Okay, those build, you've got some for you. You contribute them to your side. Groups contributed to the entire side of Falkar. At the end, we're going to have a massive peace conference, and we're going to settle the issues of the war, and the players are going to decide how to spend their influence so that they can influence the actual story of the world of Phelan leading up to the Brightsword War. As the War of the Red Sail concludes, you'll be deciding who won it, what the stakes were, and what the outcomes were for the kingdoms of Haraldal and Falkar in terms of territory lost or gained, boundaries shifted, political machinations between the two sides based on that spending of the influence at the end. And so the two things that are different about this campaign are you have sea blades, you have another environment to play in, you're playing in a sea environment, and the end of the game end isn't I got the most gold at the end, I've got the most free band value, whatever you're going for. It's I'm trying to get as much influence as I can, be able to have my side come out on the winning end of all the different negotiations that happen at the peace conference.
Yeah, and I think that's really awesome, John. When you first proposed that to me, I was like, that is going to be so cool. No, I've got to fight the war, but I really want to do this treaty process because that's going to be so much fun. Yeah, that's.
So we're going to go into when Matt and I are writing. When we're writing the Brightsword War, we're writing the lead up to it. This takes place 3 years before that war kicks off, but the stage that the characters are starting off on when that story gets told is one you, the player, will influence.
That's right.
How much pain there was for the losing side. What it says about the winning side's position when the really much more dangerous and larger war begins is going to be dictated by this campaign. We have not decided that. We are letting this campaign tell that tale.
That's right. That's really awesome. So before we wrap this up, John, one more thing. If I was getting into the Undersea campaign and I've got my free band and I have my patron and I've chosen my sides, but I'm looking to get a boat. Do you have some advice for those people who are looking to purchase a boat or to print a boat? There's a ton of them on the market. There's some gorgeous pieces, all different sizes, all different shapes. What's your suggestion?
So I would, yes, I do have some advice for sure. Okay. It's a way, it's a conveyance, right? For the game of Sea Blades, it's getting you around the table. And so you're looking for something about, you don't want something that's, a foot or more long because you're going to move once and, not be able to maneuver effectively in amongst the islands, or, you're going to have a hard time getting this thing on their table. So the larger ships that are people's collections, we've written a scenario at the end called the Ghost Ship. And there's a big ship in the middle of a table that is a treasure ship, and you're going to take the treasure off of it. So there's a way to get your big monster ship model into the game at the end. But for getting around and doing the things, well, I would advise kind of similar to what I'm doing, a ship that carries your free band for the first couple of scenarios as it grows, or like canoes or longboats, like something like what Matt is doing, where I've got a couple of smaller ones that maybe only hold 4, 5, 6 25 mil bases, but I can send one to do one mission and one to do another mission. One to one island to look for treasure, another to another island to look for treasure. But I'm only carrying around 6 or 8 models to start because it's 150 gold kickoff. You get 10 gold ship treasury to buy ship with. You get 10 gold in addition to that 150 to spend towards ships. So in my case, for example, the Piragua turned out to be 13 gold. So my free band's 147. 3 more gold out of that towards the ship, and the 10 gold I get for free from the ship treasury rule. And so making that kind of decision, you look at the ship stats, but people have been posting pictures of these ships all over Discords, Seablades, and Intersea, in some cases modeling and painting, but a lot of on the Seablades channel and the Intersea channel. And there is a document in, is it Intersea or Seablades? I'm going to look right now on Discord called Seablades Helper, which shows you photographs of some of these ships. So you can get an idea of the kind that you might want. So you go searching on the internet, whether you're going to buy one or print it, make a model, however you're going to do it, you can get a feel for the size of these things and how long and how wide they are and how many models they hold. And so I would just do a little bit of research on that, I think, before I chose. It's cool to go out and buy the 2-foot long ship. A 2-foot long ship makes one move and it's already in the enemy's deployment zone. And it can't maneuver very well. It takes one turn to the wind and, I'm headed off the table. And what good am I for the treasure hunt or what have you? So I'd start out small. Every couple of games, we add to your ship treasury. So it's meant to grow. As you gain more models, you gain more experience, you can go and add to or buy a larger ship, and we're giving you some gold to do it with. It doesn't impact on your free band. Of course, you can use the gold that you earned during the campaign for that also. I would, especially if I wasn't experienced at naval games and moving a ship around, I would start with something that wasn't much bigger than my free band and focus on getting onto the table and doing some things in game one instead of trying to, bring the Missouri into play from the first moment. I'm going to take a look, Matt, and see where that Seablades Helper is.
Yeah, that's perfect, John. So as we wrap up today, normally we do our job board at the end of each of our episodes, and that's where we answer a question that has been posed to us on Facebook or on our Discord. A why question. Why do you do this way? Why do you do this way, that way? And we kind of thought, for this episode, this has kind of been an entire episode of the job board. So we're going to skip that for this week. But we're super excited about the Intersea campaign, and we're very excited to start seeing pictures of your all's games coming back to us. And we're excited to start putting some of those pictures of our campaign out. So I know, John, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to next week. Hopefully the snow holds off and we get everything back under control here in Kansas City and we can start playing. So, folks, we really appreciate you hanging in with us here on the Sleeping Grush podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have comments or questions or concerns, please put them on the Sleeping Grush podcast channel on Discord. We read all of those questions. We love to interact with you all. We're very happy that you're here with us. We've got some great stuff coming up this year. We know this is kind of our first real episode of 2025. We've got a lot of stuff coming up, and we're going to get to that in another episode. We thank you for hanging in with us. We will see you when we see you around the table.
Little Sakama.